Join Carol Davies on Global Voice Radio, the host of Only the Best for You. Be a change maker and unlock the secret to your best life.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Global Voice Radio show, Only the Best for You, here on Global Voice Radio. My name is Carol Davies of the Passion Motivator Coaching Company. I'm so pleased to share with you the best information and speakers about how you can be a change maker to make the world and yourself the best that you can be. Today, I am really so pleased to be interviewing Tschanna Taylor. Tschanna is a wonderful lady that I met recently through Facebook networking and other things, and she has such a wonderful message that I want her to share with you. I'll give you just a little bit of background about Tschanna. She is passionate about empowering and educating women, and she's the owner of Tschanna Taylor Enterprises, and that includes a soon-to-be-developed coaching academy called the Ignited Purpose Coaching Academy, the Kingdom Adventure Publishing Company, the Healed Emerald Podcast Show, and hashtag I Am Important, which is a social movement established to educate, equip, and empower women to rebuild their mess into their masterpiece. So interestingly, Tschanna is also known as the Purpose Engineer, and we're going to get her to tell us more about that in a few minutes. And she's a very gifted storyteller, and she is very knowledgeable about resilience and purpose. And she believes that the transformative power of storytelling has the power to change lives. Her testimony of faith and her ability to share her story, unashamed and with boldness, is truly what causes her to connect with others on multiple levels. She is definitely a wonderful woman after God's own heart, and she lives her life learning, growing daily, and giving to others. With her approach, she is committed to empowering women to operate authentically and unapologetically in their God-given purpose. I'm so pleased today to introduce you to Tschanna, and I'd like to give her a chance now to explain to us, how did you get into this wonderful way of empowering and training women?
So before I begin, Carol, I just want to tell you thank you again for inviting me to be a part of your outstanding show. And I am very grateful for our connection of meeting each other on Facebook. And so for me, I started business when I was 18 years old. And if I had to take it further than 18 years old, I remember my grandmother telling me at 5 years old, instead of me playing with Barbie dolls and playing with, dress up things, I was teaching my teddy bears a class. I had to have my briefcase. I had to have a notebook so that I could write my agenda. And so with starting my business at 18, I started out with gift baskets and event planning. I didn't know what a coach was. I just knew that at that age, after graduating high school, headed to college, I wanted to be a boss. And so life happened, and I, been through a lot of different life experiences during that time. But back in 2012, I took business really, really seriously. And I decided that I wanted to get into the coaching industry. I didn't realize that, giving people advice and suggestions back then was actually considered coaching, because you didn't hear about coaching unless it was a sport. And so with getting into the coaching industry, that was 2012. And since then, I have earned many, many different certifications, from Christian life coach to relationship and marriage, premarital, health and wellness, you name it. And so this is where I am today, and that's how I got started.
That's wonderful. I was speaking with Tschanna a few minutes before we started the show, and she shared a very interesting fact with me that I think might fascinate you too. Can you tell us a little bit about the interesting background of your name?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So my name is Tschanna, and it's African for happiness. But I was also named by the doctor who delivered me, who was a German doctor. And so that's how my mother and father decided to give me the name of Tschanna.
What I was most impressed about with her name was it sounds like, when you say it, it sounds like you're almost singing the song. It's a very soft, and it reminded me of, the word in English, Hosanna, which is sort of like a song of praise.
Yes.
And with me getting to know Tschanna better, she is like a song of praise the whole time in her connection with her purpose, her connection with why God has put her on this earth. And that's why I'm so excited to have her share her message today. And I just wanted to let you know, if you're interested, Tschanna spells her name a little bit different. And it's T for Tom, S for Sam, Channa. And then her last name is Taylor. So her website, if you want to look it up later, is tschannataylor.com. So I'd like to get that in, just because I know you're going to be as fascinated with her as I am. So maybe give us a little background on what you think is the most important thing you have to share with other women right now.
The most important thing that I want to share with the audience on today is to always be your authentic self. Life has happened for you, and there are many different experiences that you've encountered, but never, ever apologize for who you are and what you've gone through. And then how do you share with others what it is that you've gone through and how you were able to overcome so that they too can overcome? And so that's the message that I want to leave with the audience on today, is to always be yourself. Never apologize for who you are and what you've gone through. You never have to be ashamed of nothing that you've been through. And I want you to always remember, if you don't remember anything else, lift your head up high and know that everything that you've been through was never wasted. It will not be wasted. God has a purpose in those experiences.
I definitely agree wholeheartedly with you, Tschanna, because probably like yourself, I have, and many of our listeners have had things happen in our lives that maybe we're not proud of. They were painful, they were hurtful. We thought maybe we'd never pick ourselves up, but it's really through whatever you believe, be it God, the force of the universe, whatever is there, connecting you and I together. Everything happens for a reason, like you said. And yes, some of the things may have been upsetting, shameful, whatever, but you put those in the past because that's gone. And if you keep looking back, it just holds you back. So if you stay now and look future oriented, which is the message I get, from you, then this is what's going to carry you forward, because all the experiences we've had in the past, they make a base and a foundation for our life now and to go forward. And if we've had maybe unhappy experiences or challenging ones, would we be the people we are today if we hadn't? What do you think about that?
Yes, I agree. We would definitely be at a place right now where then we couldn't say that we could be. It's just amazing how the things that we have gone through catapults us to where we're supposed to be at this particular moment. We may not have all of the T's crossed and all the I's dotted, but the one thing that I want to leave it also is that you got to be confident with who you are. If you're not confident, you'll stay stuck, you'll stay frustrated and angry. And sometimes we as women, we have this complex that we look over at our peers and we see, I'm not doing what they're doing, but you don't know, what they had to go through to get to where they are. You got to do the work. But in so doing the work and the inner work, be confident with who you are.
Absolutely. This is the most important thing because many of us as women were brought up to not put ourselves forward or to, hide who we are, to be, pleasing people or not rock the boat. But I think now society is becoming a lot more authentic, and it's important to be who we are and know who we are. And I think that's why we have, people blazing a trail for us, similar to yourself, that it's time now to own the greatness and the beauty in ourselves. Because no matter, as you say, whatever has happened in the past, it's not there now. And if you do keep looking back, then you're never going to see that glorious future that you can create for yourself, and how you can, by being the wonderful person you are, how to change yourself and the world. And that's one reason I like to interview people such as yourself, because you're a change maker and you're creating change in the world. So I would wondering if you would tell us a little bit about the wonderful Ignited Purpose Coaching Academy that you're developing.
So the Ignited Purpose Academy is an academy established for individuals who are interested in wanting to start a business. Yes, there is a plethora of information that you can find on Google or the internet, but I give that personable one-on-one approach where I take you by the hand and I teach you how to build the foundation of your business to make sure that you're legally set up and your structure is correct, as well as creating different products and services that is gifted on the inside of us. Again, I talk about these experiences that we had in our life. And so then I take the potential student into the book writing forum where I teach how to write a book, how to outline a book, how to market the book. And then we learn how to seek after speaking engagement so that you can further share with the world the message that's on the inside of you, because we all have had life's messes in our lives. And my job as the director for the academy is to teach you how to take that life's mess and turn it into a masterpiece.
I think that when your academy is up and running, we'll definitely have you, back with us and tell us more about it. But it must be extremely motivating and exciting for you at this point to be doing all these different things, writing content, doing courses, and just looking back on, times in your life that, would you have liked to have had something like this when you were on the road to becoming an entrepreneur?
Oh, absolutely. I think I would be a little bit further along than where I am, but I don't negate my process. Those were still experiences that I had to learn, and I'm still in a learning process. There are still things, even in business today, that I'm open and willing to learn, because you got to be a lifelong student with whatever it is that you choose to do.
Okay, if one of our listeners contacted you today and said, Tschanna, my life is a mess right now. What can I do? What advice would you give them?
Well, the first thing that I would say is let's get still, let's get quiet, and then let's get together to talk about why do you feel that there is a mess? And then we would definitely have to dig deep to get to the root cause, because you just don't come out having life messes. Something had to happen or something had to transpire to make it to be a mess. And so that would be the first thing that we would do, is to walk together confidently, feeling safe that you can, come to me with this information and we figure this thing out together, because my mission is I refuse to let you stay stuck. I just refuse to.
I like to hear that, because sometimes we go to get help or assistance from people, be it a therapist or a coach, and we will seek out someone who will be comfortable with, and they won't challenge us. So if someone came to you, are you going to be supportive or challenging, or is there a balance?
I would say it will definitely be a balance. Yes, I'm going to be supportive throughout the whole process, but then you won't be able to stay stuck but for so long. You got to take one step forward and move along. You don't want to continue to keep using these things as crutches or things that will cause you to continue to stay stuck, because then you'll never have progress. And so, yes, it will be a mixture of both.
I know myself, I had some incidents in the past where I had to have help and support. And I never made progress until I found one or two people that really challenged me. So I think what you're saying there is important, because if people support you sort of in what you're doing, you keep doing the same things and nothing changes. So I think it's good for people to know that. And also, how is it that people can get that courage to ask for help? What could they do to prepare themselves?
Well, to prepare yourselves to get the courage, you got to be willing to communicate what you need. If you don't say what you need or what you have issues in, I don't know, how you could get the help. You got to be willing to make the first move. And once you make that first move and say, this is what I'm dealing with, this is what, I'm bringing to the table, what can you do to help me so that we can move on to the next phase? So it starts with, being comfortable and at peace about wanting to seek help.
I think our society today has sort of trained us to think that asking for help or support is somehow weakening or not being a failure, but it's not something that we do as a first step, because we always think, oh, if this isn't working, there must be something wrong with me. And you don't want people to see that, because maybe they won't like you the same or they won't respect you. But I think when one is hurting inside or sort of in a place where you feel stuck or you don't know where to go, to have it is far more courageous to say, I need help, and to go out and then find, the type of help that you need, and be proud of yourself, because it's not a weakness. And in fact, showing vulnerability and what we would say weakness is actually showing who you are authentically. And if you do that, I have found that in the past, life opens up for you and things start flowing into your life that are going to help and support you. Have you seen anything like that?
Yes, I actually had a conversation with a potential client just yesterday where she's started a business, and her business is on self-esteem. Yet when I talked to her on the second or third time, I picked up that, okay, your message is about self-esteem, but when we talk about different products and services, your esteem is not there. And so I told her that until she's ready to be truthful and admit that she really needs help in that area, she's just going to spin her wheels. And I hate to see that happen. And it is my prayer that, you know, she says to me, and she doesn't even have to hire me for my services. She can hire, it's so many coaches available. The hard part about the many coaches that's out there is finding someone that will be honest, transparent, thought-provoking, yet will, like you said earlier, challenge you to rediscover and redefine who you are, what your values are, what is the message that you're conveying to your audience, because you don't want to get up in front of a crowd of people and your message is self-esteem and you present, but you show signs that you're not really confident in what it is that you do. And so, yes, I have seen that. And sometimes it's unfortunate, you know, a lot of times it could be, you know, many factors, you know, as to why this happens.
That is a very valid story that you've told us, because sometimes we're extremely excited to start a business in some area, but I think you make a very strong point that if there's issues that we have, it's better to try to be on top of them and know that we too still need to develop ourselves a bit, because no matter where we are in life, there's always that excitement and need to develop who we are. We may think we know who we are and have pretty good self-knowledge, but there's always more things to know and learn and be excited about. Part of what I do is help people find their purpose and passion in life, because I call myself the passion motivator, and you call yourself the purpose engineer. So in a way, the link between us, I feel, is the word purpose, because I come at it from doing, you know, the groundwork and getting clear on things, and you're very similar. But if you don't really know why you are here to live your life the best way possible, then it seems very frustrating and stressful. So how do you help your clients find out their purpose?
So I talked to them about what is the things that they would do and didn't really care if they got paid for it or not. And we do several assessments. I even use the spiritual analysis, and based on that spiritual analysis assessment, based on the top 3 to 5 different gifts, those are the areas that we concentrate on the most. For me, every time I take the spiritual assessment, my top characteristics come back as administration, pastoral, and the gift of helps, being of help to other people. And so we talk about those different things. Like for me, when I talk about business, like I just light up. I get excited because I want to teach everybody that I know, and I know everyone is not, you know, my target, or may not even be interested, or they may not even get it at that particular time as I'm teaching it. But I just light up. Like I believe, going back to 5 years old, all the things that I've gone through, it amazes me how God is very strategic, and it's like the circle of life. Like, who would have ever thought that at 5 I would be in this teaching role today? And, you know, like I said, going through the different things in life, like I wanted to get into accounting. Okay, so working in accounting in high school, and then when I got to college, I allowed fear to cause me to stay stuck once I started taking those federal tax accounting classes. And so, but who would have thought today, because although I do have my business, I do work full time. I never would have thought today I would actually be working in accounting. Now, I went to school. I have a master's degree. My bachelor's is in business administration, but my master's is in human resource management. That is not even in the field of study that I went to school for. But today, I do accounts receivable for the state here in North Carolina. And so everything, like I mentioned earlier, is full circle. It happens for a reason. And so we one-on-one get together to take the time to figure out what it is that you like to do. Do you like teaching? Do you like hosting workshops? And we, you know, take that and we expound and we figure out different ways to get them started to actually be working in their purpose.
All right. Now, if you have a client you're working with who's in a job, you know, they sort of like, or a business they sort of like, but they want to make a change to get to the next level, what advice would you have for them?
I would definitely tell them to study the craft. Whatever it is that they're wanting to do to get to the next level, what is it going to take? So you're going to have to write out goals. And does that mean that you're going to have to network with those that are already at that level? Or will you have to show up at some networking events? Will you have to take some courses or classes online or maybe at your local community college or local university? And so what are the steps that it's going to take to get there? You just, you know, don't get to the next level. You got to do the work. So what does that look like? So I would tell them to write out goals of what it is that they want to accomplish and find a mentor or a coach that can help also with getting you to that next level.
That's, I think, extremely valuable advice, because sometimes we'll be, let's say, in a job or even a business that we're running, and we're not happy. And frequently because of, you know, financial reasons or because we're afraid to make change, we just sort of bump along. But that's not a very happy or comfortable life, because if inside you're not balanced and happy and what I call singing with joy, sort of about doing what you do every day, it holds you back as a human being, and also from all those gifts that you have to give to the world. So I think the advice that you're giving there is actually quite straightforward, because just to decide that, okay, now I'm going to focus on myself. That's important. How do you advise people, let's say, who are your clients, to not focus on everything else but themselves? How can they do that?
Well, you got to take it one step at a time. If you know that you have an area, again, I'm going to use an example of self-esteem. You're going to have to first pinpoint what is that issue. And then you're going to have to get still and meditate and pray, and again, seek out help from a mentor that can help, you know, diagnose or point out, I wouldn't say diagnose, but help show the different areas with self-esteem that, you know, you may be having issues in. Maybe it could be, you know, taking time to read books on self-esteem. It definitely helps with the circle of people that's around you, because I believe that the environment that you could be in could also be weighing heavy on self-esteem. And so if that means that you're going to have to change your circle, you got to be okay with making some changes so that you can improve to be a better person.
Absolutely, because if you are an unfulfilled and unhappy person, then you're not going to have any resources to be able to be there for other people, really to give back, be of service, because I do believe that we're all here on earth to help each other. But if you're in a very dark place inside, you have to open up and let that light shine in. Be it God's light, be it the light of a spiritual connection, or it can even be, a couple of special friends, members of your family. Once you open up, that light that comes in is going to support and guide you. And I really think that's when miracles happen. Have you seen any sort of what you would call miracles happen in the lives of any of your clients without giving out too much detail?
Yes, there was one particular client who was dealing with issues in her marriage. And she was actually at a point where she was ready to walk away, ready to throw in the towel. But it took communication with the two of them to actually get to a place to understand how did they even get there in the first place. And then after communication, they did seek pastoral counseling. And then after pastoral counseling, they were able to move forward and make their marriage work. And now they have the best relationship ever.
That must have been a wonderful development to see in that person's life. I mean, both for you and that person. And just think of the courage that took to open up. And the basic thing was what you said, is communication. Do you think that people in general communicate well with each other, or are they afraid to show who they are?
I would say it depends on the individual. Some people can only communicate what they learned growing up as a child. So if you were in an environment where you saw nothing but abuse, that's how you communicate. If you saw that your parents show love, that's how you communicate. I believe that sometimes that the way we communicate seems to be fake. And you not be truthful about what you're really feeling. I know for me, in my own marriage, I honestly can't wait 2-3 weeks and tell my husband if there was an issue. I have to tell him immediately, because with me, with me being on the go all the time and running a business and still trying to maintain being the wife and being a mom and working full time, like I have to tell him immediately because I will forget. And, it can come up 2-3 weeks later and he'll say, oh, well, you did this, and this. And I'm thinking, okay, if we didn't address it right then, I don't know what you're talking about. So I believe it just depends on the language that we all speak. Being able to be, like you said, open and vulnerable to convey communication and how you're thinking and feeling. And sometimes, when we are trying to be transparent, you got to be okay with what it is that you deliver. And it's not left up to you or how the person on the other end receives it. Once you've communicated, it's left to the other person.
Is there a way of learning to communicate in an effective and positive way? Because, as you say, we're all brought up communicating in a different way, but can we unlearn or relearn other ways to communicate?
Absolutely. It takes a mindset shift, number one. You got to have a made up mind that you want to learn how to unlearn and to speak in a positive way. But if you're not willing to change your mind, again, it's just like being that rat on that wheel. It's just going to be an ongoing circle, racing with nowhere to go to. And so it starts first with the mind.
Yeah, I like what you said about the mindset. What, in your view, is mindset, so that we could maybe understand it?
Well, mindset to me is a way of thinking. Growing up, I'll give you an example. Growing up here, there was a mindset that, if you had success, you were looked upon as if you're snooty or you're thinking that you're all that. But if I want to be successful with what it is that I've been called to do, I had to eliminate some friends. I had to eliminate the things that I saw growing up as a kid and eliminate, again, the language that we spoke, to know that it's okay to be successful with speaking engagements and doing business and showing the world that, if I can do this, you can do this too.
I really agree with you wholeheartedly, because I know I grew up in decades back here in Canada, and between Canada and the United States, there's not that much difference in many ways. There are some cultural differences and there are regional differences, depending on where we grew up. But essentially, I think you take on, as you said before, the characteristics of the environment you're raised in. So for us, it wasn't good for women to sort of put themselves forward that much. They were really expected almost to be, you'd go to school, maybe go to university or college, get a degree, but then it was expected, you would marry, you would have a family, you would, be a support to the husband and that. But there was never anything in there, if you were a woman, of you being important and your wants and your needs being important. Whereas I think now the younger people coming along have it a lot better, because we've gone through feminism, we've gone through redefining society in a way, and being an individual now is expected almost. And I think a lot of us, who are not necessarily in, our 20s or 30s, don't have that sort of background. How would you help a client who comes to you, say, maybe in her 40s, who has, sort of an old-fashioned way of looking at things, but knows she needs to change?
Well, again, I would have to start with, it starts with the mind. You got to change how you perceive things, and you have to have visualization to decide where it is that you want to go. Like, we talk about vision boards, but there is so many powerful, effective ways to use the vision board. And then again, you have to have those goals set, broken down, and we're going to have to take one thing at a time and work towards getting there. Because again, everything that you've gone through, remember I said earlier, there's purpose there. It's attached to it.
Yeah, I think it's fundamental that knowing who we are and having purpose is really the keystone to life in a way, because if you aren't clear on that, you just sort of drift through life. And I mean, we're only on this earth, the one time. And I just think it's such a shame that people sometimes don't open up to what they really want to learn and do or be. And I don't know if you can call it a wasted life, but it's a less happy life. Because I truly think that God put us on this world to be happy and joyful, giving to others, making the world a better place just by being here. Now, I know that I was put on this earth to be a source of joy and happiness, because my mother named me Carol. And that, if you think of it, one of the meanings of it is Song of Joy. And I have always been attracted by things to create happiness and this and that. And I didn't realize that, until my 40s. something like that, a little bit like yourself. You went a certain way, learned certain things. But when I realized that, I thought the light bulb went off, and it was my purpose to be here for other people, to show them the way that they could find the way for their best life, for happiness, and create that also for others, because it's like throwing a little pebble into a pond. It creates those ripples, and you don't know where those ripples go. And, it creates something out of your sight, and something else is created. But because you either had a connection with somebody, or said something, or did something, the world is forever changed. And I like to think that it can be positively, because there's so much negativity in the world. We have to show that sign of happiness, and I think just give out positivity. So I'm thinking that one of the ways that you do that is through speaking. You told me, how do you, in your career, use opportunities for speaking to get your message out?
The only way I know to do it, Carol, is to be my most authentic self, and to be transparent and vulnerable, and share with the audiences the things that I had to endure and the lessons that I had to learn along the way, so that they too can take at least just one thing away and apply it to their lives, to know that this is a young lady who at birth, my mom called me a monster. She didn't want me. And I've had many, many occasions where the enemy tried to take me out of here. I'll share, back in 2016, I had to have emergency gastric bypass, where I had developed gastroparesis from complications due to diabetes. And food would sit in my stomach for weeks on end. It would not digest. I couldn't go to the bathroom. Laxatives did not work. I felt locked up and frustrated, and I couldn't do nothing about it until one day I vomited so much every day for 2 weeks. And my doctor told me, he said, well, you can't continue like this. You'll be dehydrated and you'll die. So they did this emergency gastric bypass. I was against gastric bypass. I didn't want to have any surgeries because I had family members and friends who had it, and they had all of these complications, and they had this sick look on their face. And I'm like, I don't want to look like that. But it wasn't based on looks. It was about my overall health. And so after coming out of surgery, being in recovery for a couple of hours, my lung collapsed. And at that time, I felt like I was dying again. And I remember distinctly hearing the voice of God tell me, okay, now you've done business for a long time and you have not taken it seriously. And I have called you to a purpose. And he even said that you may not know the plans, but I know the plans. That's why Jeremiah 29:11 is my most favorite scripture, because when I don't know from what day to next the way God will have me to go, I know that he knows the plans for me. And he told me that he was giving me a second chance to get into position and to really take business serious, because the message of all the things that I went through growing up in a childhood where seeing my stepdad beat upon my mom, and going through teenage promiscuity and not being clear on what it is that I'm truly called to do. All of those life messes. This is why I stand, and my mantra is me teaching others how to take all of that stuff and flip it and think about it, like you said, in a positive way, and look at it as these are masterpieces. And I get to teach others through my speaking by being my most authentic self, sharing with them. If I went through all of that, look at me. You can do it too.
I think that is so inspiring to hear, because so many people don't have the most ideal childhoods, or they end up making, life choices that send them down maybe the wrong path for a while. But it's because you don't know sometimes. Or if you're a young child, you're at really the mercy of the adults, and you have no way of getting out of that. And it shapes you as a person until you get to be an adult. And then when we are adults, we have a choice. We can stay stuck, or we can decide that, as you said, we can look at the past and say, okay, that did happen, but what have I learned from it? And anything can be changed, because I always say there's no such thing as failure. It's when you make a choice and do something, it turns out you had a set of choices and you made a decision. And that decision led to, a certain way of being or acting. And maybe that didn't work out. Well, you take yourself and say, okay, that's great, but what did I learn from it? And then you got another whole series of choices ahead of you. So in a way, life is so exciting because you can make a choice to change anytime you want. And I mean, how great is that, really? Mm-hmm. And from the message you've shared with us, that's what I get from you, that it's never too late. You can start anytime. And I think if any of our listeners are out there, it's so important to know that there are people like Tschanna who are here to help us, show us the way, support us, and really just, be that shining light. So do you have any final advice you'd like to give to our listeners?
Yes, absolutely. I will say that whatever your process is, whatever it is that you are experiencing right now, embrace your process. Again, you may not know it all. You may not know the path. You may not know the direction. You may not cross every T and dot every I. Yes, you may make mistakes. It's okay. Take all of that stuff as a lesson learned, and don't rush the process, because apparently there is something greater at the end if you just be patient and embrace that process.
Oh, that is such wonderful advice, Tschanna. Embrace that process, know who you are as a person, and then give the best of yourself. I mean, what more could one want out of life than that? So I'd like to thank you so much, Tschanna Taylor, for being here with us today. And I'm certain that our listeners are going to have some great takeaways from what you've shared with us. And if you want further information or to talk with Tschanna, please go to her website at www.tschannataylor.com. And I'm going to spell that again. That's TSCHANNA Taylor, TAYLOR.com. Or look for her on Facebook under Tschanna Taylor, and you will have a chance to meet up with a superb lady. So if you want any further information or want to talk about any more ideas too with me, contact me through my website, thepassionmotivator.com, or by email at coachcaroldavies@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. And remember, you can change your life at any time and become the success you want to be. Bye now.
Tune in every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern for Only the Best for You with Carol Davies on Global Voice Radio.